Boker Tov, everyone. Boker Tov on this day, Sunday, April 12th. Our Christian brothers and sisters are celebrating Easter today. And for us, it's the middle of Passover, for Pesach. And we are deep into matzah and matzah brai and macaroons and all the chametz-friendly with non-chametz food available in our houses here, those of us selling Passover. And I want to give a brief message about Moshe. You know, they're the greatest character with so much teachings. I remember when I was a kid and I was hearing about the question of Moshe, and it says that he was kaved lashon, heavy-tongued, and basically the translation is he had a speech impediment, bottom line. Maybe something about his inability to speak clearly. And in fact, he gives us an example when God chooses Moshe to be our leader. Moshe says, how can I do this? For a million reasons. I'm not worthy. But one of them is I don't speak well. How can I go up to Pharaoh and tell him that my people go when I can't do this? And I'll never forget, as a young kid studying some of the Bible stories and with my religious school class, one of the midrashim trying to explain, well, why does Moses even get that speech impediment? How did that happen? And it troubled me back then, and it may trouble you now, but this is the story, is that when Moshe is the baby, goes and sentenced just into Nile to be saved by genocide by his mother. Bat Paro, Pharaoh's daughter, supposedly comes, takes the baby, knows it's a Hebrew baby, names him Moshe, which means to pull out of the water, brings him into Pharaoh's palace as a baby. And, over time, we know the story. Moshe becomes basically an heir apparent. But very still, as a young baby, according to this midrash, Pharaoh was leery and very skeptical. What's up with this baby? He knew the baby, he implied, had some Hebrew roots, perhaps, even though he eventually adopts him. He says, not clear, is this baby going to follow, is in my best interest, going to follow what I want for Pharaoh's palace, for my palace? Or is this baby going to be a source of difficulty or trouble or idiot for himself? Again, a baby. I'll never forget hearing the story for the first time, that to prove this baby's, true intentions, which is simply to be a baby, Pharaoh put two piles in his palace. A huge pile of jewels, gold, shiny, huge pile in one part of the room, one of his cavernous rooms. And in the other, he put hot coals, charcoal that were burning hot. And they laid the baby down as baby Moshe was crawling, according to Midrash, and to crawl towards these. And the idea that Pharaoh says, depending on which one he touches, it will reveal what his interest is in being part of my palace. So, as anyone knows, babies are attracted to shiny things. I still remember this when I think about my own kids. When to calm them down, sometimes I would take my watch off and give it to my Rav and Adi, especially when they were younger. I learned the hard way, shouldn't do that because they once threw it across the room and really broke my watch. But the idea is that they want shiny things. So, according to the Agadah, Moshe immediately went towards the shiny objects, which would then reveal to Pharaoh that he was there ulterior motives, wants to steal, take over the kingdom's wealth, etc. And Pharaoh would kill Moshe. That was the understanding. So according to the Agadah, Moshe takes his hand out as a baby, reaches out for the pile of jewels, but an angel from God comes down, grabs his hand in order to save him, puts it onto the hot coals. The hot coals are so hot, it burns his hand. And to soothe himself, he puts his hand in his mouth, which then burns also his mouth. And so he was not born with a speech impediment, but he actually gained the speech impediment in an effort to save his life from God and from an angel, basically. That story, it troubled me. It's just, this is the power of Torah. If you come back to it and you come back to it, it has different meanings over the course of one's life. On the one hand, of course, it's deeply troubling that Moshe that to be saved in this, it's like almost catch-22, he had to become hurt. And that he permanently hurt him. is very sad. The whole thing, the way the testing the Pharaoh doing is very troubling. It's morally troubling. But I want to say on another level, the fact that God still wants to choose Moshe to be the leader who's going to speak up to Pharaoh and say some things. When Moshe, this is a place where Moshe says, I'm weakest later on. I'm most embarrassed. I feel the most insecure. Is really not just about God going into Moshe and saying, Moshe, don't worry. Whatever challenges you have, you can still do it. That's first of all. But it's also a critique of Egypt, where in Egypt, the idea of a human being not being quote unquote perfect would be seen as lesser. In this context, God's basically saying, you're not lesser, Moshe. You are perfect. You have so much to offer. And in fact, we're going to not just defeat Pharaoh because it's wrong that he's enslaving us. We're going to defeat Pharaoh through you to show him that someone who is difficult to speak is going to speak power to him. It's in a way sticking it to him even stronger. Not just the idea that God's behind you and that the ideas are correct, but it'll be translated from a person who on the surface might have a challenge to say basically, because that's not the way we judge our people. Not based on maybe a physical or that's not a negative. It's just perhaps a challenge to be overcome. But we put our best leaders up front, even with physical challenges that everyone can see. We don't shy away from that. We are proud of that. And not only that, God essentially says, Moshe, when you're going to have challenges, you have to do a lot of talking to our people too, by the way, and to Mitzrayim and to Pharaoh. Not only that, we'll give you Aaron. Aaron will speak for you when necessary. So don't think you have to do it all yourself. This may be a place where you're challenged, but that doesn't disqualify you, because it's not only about you. There can be other people you lean on to help get you through this experience. How powerful is that? So in the end, what I want to really pass forward here is that even though it's painful, maybe this midrash for how Moshe got the speech impediment and it affects his whole life. And I don't want to put down the fact that it's hard and socially difficult. We see it amongst children today. I mean, it makes life difficult. But the Jewish message is that when you have a challenge, something that we call it a disability, the view, when we look at that, if every human being is made in the image of God, that disability is not simply yours. In a sense, it's God's. It is not to be looked down on. It is to be celebrated, as just like most people are right-handed, most. Some are left-handed. There was a time, my own grandmother, who was embarrassed to be a left-handed writer and forced herself to be a writer. She was terrible. I said, how come? She said, well, when I was a kid, they used to take your hand, tie it behind your back. We were considered disabled or whatever, not the norm. What we said is, not the norm, be our leader. Not the norm, be our leader, and you can't do everything. It's okay. You got Aaron. You got Miriam. Because our leadership isn't just going to be, the Egyptian view is one man in charge, quote unquote perfect, a god. The Hebrew response is a few people with gifts working together, and even with some obvious challenges. Because that's us. And my last message to you about this with Moshe. During this time, things are challenging. Tough to step up and do things. We're all struggling here. Gewalt, another day. But the Pesach message, the Moshe message, each of us have some gift to give to alleviate the suffering of someone in this circumstance. Some that may be through our voice, through our writing, some by doing volunteering, by giving blood or shopping. Fine, I understand. Not everyone has the biggest car or maybe had the biggest muscles to schlep the most things from Costco. Okay, I get it. But you can do your part. Maybe you can work together with others to do something. It doesn't all have to be just on you. And you're not a failure if you need others to work with you. In fact, that is the Jewish way. It's celebrated to say, it's not all on you to do everything. It's meant to be done with others as a team. God loves you for who you are, challenges and all. That's all God in there. But it's for you to say, what gifts can I still give, even so? Not to be embarrassed about it. In Egypt, to be embarrassed about it. Amongst Bnei Yisrael, we consider it a badge of honor. So when you're out there today, in general, think about what I can do to serve, whether it's in this crisis or whether, God, please, God, the crisis is over. So I can't do it. I got this challenge. Okay, it's a challenge. It's not the end of the story. You still have a gift to give, just like Moshe. Can you imagine? Supposed to speak out to the entire of Egypt, has a speech impediment? Gewalt. It's like, this does not sound ideal. Well, maybe it is spiritually ideal, because it forces Moshe to push forward, to reach out, and to accept the fact that even though he may have a challenge, there's still nothing he can't do when he puts his mind to it and works with a team. With God's help, that's one of the key lessons of Passover, of how to rise up and change things. Don't stop yourself before you give it a try. Wishing everyone a safe and healthy day, please God. A day where we all give our gifts, whatever our gifts are, to alleviate suffering, to make the world better, to help others under the circumstance, and please God, even after. Happy Easter to those who celebrate, but Chag Sameach, Aziz and Pesach, and they say Moedim Lesimcha, which means the special phrase Moedim, holidays of joy, in the middle of this Pesach holiday. Kol Tov.